beauty queen, prosecutor, journalist. Mary's journey is anything but ordinary. Today, she'd join us to talk about breaking stereotypes, relearning new skills with positive mindset, and how soft power begins with authenticity and connection. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Software Project. I have a very exciting guest today. It's Mary, and she was the Miss Teen America turned reporter, and she covered multiple breaking stories. And she went into law after that, served as a prosecutor in Orlando, and now she's back as a reporter. Hi, Mary.
Hi, how are you, Sherry?
I'm good. Your story is absolutely amazing. And again, like if anyone's watching from YouTube, just look at her. She is the anchor woman. She's the reporter, beautiful hair, beautiful outfit. And she's so like her smile, it's just beautiful. So I really encourage you guys take a look at the YouTube channel. So yeah, I'm so excited to hear your stories. You went through multiple transformation and it's absolutely amazing. And I read your wiki page that you're the first Asian American who got the teen pageant, right? The Miss Teen
Correct.
America. Oh my goodness. Tell
Yes.
me about that experience.
Well, I was Miss Teenage America in 1993, and that was through Teen Magazine. And Teen Magazine at the time, it was a very all-American teen magazine, story girl. And so I grew up here in California, and Teen Magazine had bought the program from somebody else. And it was a really big deal that I was the first Asian American to win that titles. So I'm very proud to do that. That was in 1993 when there was very little, a lot, not very many Asians as much in pop culture.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, think of how much that time has changed. Now we have the K-pop and, the Demon Hunter. Everyone knows that song. It's crazy. But tell me about that time. How does it feel like to be the first Asian American when there's not a lot of the representation in the media?
Well, during that time, it was a little bit odd because I would go on photo shoots and, I would see like Tiffany Amber Thiessen, if people know who that is, or Katherine Heigl. And,
Mm,
we were all young but I was like the only Asian and there wasn't a lot of Asians out there. And there wasn't also a lot of parts either. Cause I also did acting during high school and during early college
wow.
just for fun, just to because I lived in California, and if I was modeling anyways and doing the pageants, I might as well just do acting as well. And so it was interesting because my agents had told me, there's just not a lot of roles for Asians. You have the
Hmm.
Joy Luck, and that was
Yeah.
it. I had interviewed for Clueless, believe it or not, the movie, and didn't get the part. So that was kind of funny. But that was like really probably the biggest part I ever went out for, and it was a very small part. But
Hmm.
there was not a lot, and so in the '90s, mm, I was really focused more on my career, so I was also writing, an article in Teen Magazine as well as doing photo shoots and what have you, but it was very different to see that I was the only Asian or very few Asians were in the magazines at the time, but it was really nice because little kids or little girls would come up to me and tell me that they were glad to see me.
Oh,
So that
oh,
was
that is so sweet. So to them, you are representing them and gave them this courage to actually dreamed of being in the mainstream media in America. And I know that I think from just reading about you, it seems like that opportunity has opened up a lot of opportunities for you as well. And you eventually kind of get into law from that, right? By writing the stories.
right. So I went to UCLA undergrad and I was a communications major. I was fortunate enough to be an intern on the OJ Simpson trial, and I was able to also write an article about it in Teen Magazine. So that was my first exposure to the court system, really, to covering a court case. And it was a lot of fun. After graduating, I started reporting in Iowa, Kansas, Arkansas, Florida, Arizona. and now I'm
Oh,
back in
goodness.
California. So I made my rounds, and it was
Mm-hmm.
a great experience, and I covered Casey Anthony, which was a major case, Trayvon Martin, um, and then Jodi Arias in Phoenix. So that was really kind of all the big cases in my career that really drew me towards law.
Mm. Right. So, what was it about law that really stirred up this passion for law or being in court for you? What is it about the covering of the stories?
Just really liked it was like just like if you're watching a true crime series, I just really like to see what happened next because when you're a reporter, you're covering a story and it kind of unfolds. I wasn't always covering the story in the court. It was before. So for example, when Casey Anthony, her daughter was missing, we covered it from the very beginning. And then till investigators were looking for the body. And then we came to the court, and then all of a sudden the body was found and the plea changed, and it was this media circus. And so everything had kind of evolved, and I found the whole process fascinating. And I really enjoyed covering it and explaining it to the viewers.
So, it's that curiosity about and stringing the pieces together and then making it a beautiful story, right? How did you actually take that part of your passion into your career or into your life?
Well, I think that I always try to find some way to relate to people. So whether it's me being an attorney, talking to a jury, jurors, talking to my clients, or talking to someone else, I always try to find a middle ground by hearing, because I think everybody has a story. I think everybody has something to bring to the table. And we all come from different backgrounds and everyone's interesting. So I always like to try to listen and see where can we connect and how can I talk to this person. So I think when I think of a person and I think of them as they have their own story as they are as a person, then it's easier for me to talk to someone.
Mm. If you don't mind, I'd love to know more about your experience when you're talking about talking to the jurors, because to me that's always like, the movie. I mean, I've never actually been to that whole system because I'm not American. I had a visa, so I was never part of the process. But what is that like? You actually need to connect with them, but there are multiple sitting in front of you. How did you do that?
Well, I loved it because I got to interact with people. So when we just had like a group of jurors, like let's say, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 jurors. And I like to ask questions, and I would say, "So, everybody here has let's just talk about, I don't know, someone's going through a divorce and you're trying to get 2 sides or something. Have you ever heard someone lie before?" And maybe someone will ask, "Well, what happened?" And then I try to hear, and then I try to say, "Does anybody else have an experience like that?" And then I try to talk, and I like to create a conversation within the whole area, and I like to get everybody involved, and then I can pick my jurors. I wanna see who's gonna be my foreman, who's gonna be someone that's like a follower, who's quiet, who's doesn't like this type of topic, who crosses their arms. So I look at all those different body language, body signs,
Mm.
the way they talk, the way they interact, and to really kind of pick my jurors.
Mm. That is super interesting. Did you actually ended up studying like body language or facial expression, or did you kind of pick that up because of your experience?
I actually so, when you're a reporter and you're covering high profile trials, you actually talk
Mm.
to juror consultants, like jury consultants and people who strategize, and they actually taught me these things, and psychologists who say, "That juror was doing this," or "That juror was doing that." So, I kind of learned sitting in the courtroom to watch jurors, to watch the public and how they reacted towards eyewitness testimony or towards cops or towards the story, and it was fascinating to me.
Mm. So I'm just curious, have you ever brought that experience into your personal life? Like, let's say you go to like a networking party, you don't really know anyone, but you do really want to connect with someone. Do you kind of just use that skills to find who's going to connect with me faster or who's going to be my supporters. I'm just wondering because I would like to learn some tips as well.
I don't really know. I mean, I think I just come in there and I talk to people and everyone's always like, "Oh, so what do you do?" Or and then when people say, "Oh, you do criminal? Oh, okay. So have you had any big stories or something?" Or what about tell me about a ticket or what do you do in a DUI if you get pulled over by a cop? So then, it's kind of into being advice. So, but I always try to like usually talking to someone just about what they do or what they like is how I kind of open up.
Like you said, building the trust. I think that is really the first and foremost, most important thing about connecting with anyone, right? And do you find that building trust has gotten more and more difficult these days because of AI and just how quickly technology has advanced? I'd like to hear your take on that.
Oh, absolutely. I think you mentioned, I was a reporter and then I got my law degree later in life as my second career and worked as both a public defender, criminal defense attorney, as well as a prosecutor. And then as I'm back to reporting again and freelancing, I'm starting to realize all this social media. There's
Mm,
all this misinformation. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, Twitter, you name it, it's out there. And then there's all the stuff online. And it's really hard to find the truth because sometimes people are over exaggerating. And then AI is amazing. AI is very scary. There's ethical issues. The technology is phenomenal and it's going so fast, but it is very scary because as journalists and as an attorney, you're looking at AI and saying, how do we make sure that we have evidence that is not been tampered with, gets entered into evidence to make sure that it's real? Or as a journalist, you make sure that what you put on the air or what you put online is actually for real and not altered by some type of machine or some type of technology. So that is very scary, or some type of voice.
yeah. I mean, yes, AI has gotten so good that you can't even tell if that's a real person or if it's just AI. How do you deal with that in your professional field these days on differentiating what's real, what's not, what's been tempered?
Well, for so it depends. So when in news more so, so for example, like Google has a news initiative. There's some other organizations like Pointer, IRE, which is Investigative Reporters and Editors, and Asian American Journalists Association. So we've had lots of seminars about looking at AI material. So what we'll do is we'll look at an event, and what they'll do is they'll piece it towards what really happened. Like if there was a bombing in a hospital. And this was actually one of our exercises. It was a real bombing in a hospital, but they had to fact check every part. So they had to make sure they had to look at how big the hospital was, what was in front of the
Mm.
hospital, how did the explosion happen? And what ended up happening was they determined that there was some AI footage that was altered. The explosion happened, but there was footage altered because they could tell that a tree didn't move. Other parts around the actual video moved and the tree didn't move. So that was how they were able to determine. But the actual explosion happened, which was crazy.
Wow. So you actually needed to piece it and actually separate them and look at each piece of information very carefully.
Yes, and it was even to the point where they had to look at the time code and time frame and to match what was happening. And that was to me just very interesting and it's really scary too because you see something and it looks so real, and that event actually happened, but it was tampered. The video was tampered with. So that was very scary, and that's what we have these days.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, you went to seminar, you tried to understand just we cope with that or how do we evolve with technology. But I think that is kind of the important things about life. It's just how do we adapt, right? Yes, everything, there's the positive, there's a negative side of it. And I think your story is a testament to that. You're constantly evolving and kind of want to go back to a little bit because I remember in our pre-recording chat, you mentioned that when you were in Orlando, you were also taking care of your aging parent as well. And that also kind of changed your career path and what you wanted to do, where you wanted to live. Could you just tell us a little bit about that?
So when I was in Tampa and Orlando area, I was as an attorney. My father had gotten sick and he had gotten cancer. So he lived in California. I brought him over to Florida and helped became a caregiver and with my mother. And so we were there for a couple of years. I had to take time off of work. I wasn't able to work full time. You just being a caregiver is very difficult. I don't think people always realize, and it's something that you don't expect at all. You don't realize how much you have to get doctors, have people come to the house, and it's a lot of work, and it can be tough and frustrating, but it's also hard to work full time. And
Yeah.
so being in criminal law is really hard because you have people who really care and who really need you, and I couldn't be there 100%. So I would try to work and then I couldn't because it was just too much. So I had to take a step back from law. And as my father is better, he went through chemo and radiation. So he's good now. We moved him back to California. And a friend from Asian American News, ASM News, mm, earlier this year was like, "Hey, Mary, the LA wildfires are going on. I need an experienced reporter. Can you kind of help me?" And so I said, "Sure." And then I started doing some reports and we got some grants to cover the LA wildfire.
Mm. And what's that transition like from going from law back to being a reporter?
It definitely was a pivot. So here I am doing just, you know, trials and stuff. Then I come to California and he's like, "Hey, can you cover the wildfires?" Sure. Go out to LA. I'm starting to see all these independent journalists, these influencers, I mean, all these different types of journalists, figure out what's going on here. Everyone's got smaller cameras. They're doing like selfies. people people are taking video of themselves in front of fires and you're just kind of like, okay, or into big things, but and you see all this stuff on social media, which I
Yeah.
started using as well. I started going on Instagram looking, okay, where can I find some video? Who can I talk to? Because I also track down people to interview their Instagram. Say, "Hey, my house burned down," or something, "This is what happened." And so, mm, it that was very different because being out of the business for about 8 years, and then going into this just massive turn of technology with all these competing sources and events of news and information and people and things that even AI news, that you can get.
Yeah.
And so it was very interesting, and I had to learn. I had to learn how
Mm.
to edit again. I had to learn how to use certain programs. I had to make sure that I knew how to use this automatic tripod to have on my cell phone, to get video. So it was different. It was definitely something that you don't expect. It's just a whole new learning experience. It was fun though, and
Mm.
funny at time. You could imagine, the camera falls or whatever, or almost. So
Right. I remember I was listening to a talk, back in the days, it's all about being an expert in one field. And now it's all about actually have multiple skills. And especially social media, content creation, that's part of it for literally every profession now, if you want it to really stand out, right? So a lot of us were like, I can't believe that we actually need to be content creator. Like that was never our dream. And also like didn't grow up with social media, didn't grow up with smartphones. you kind of have to like change your mindset, right? Change your behavior. For me anyway, like for me, I'm never someone who take out my phone to take a photo of a food. Now I do because I'm a content creator. So did you have to switch that mindset and behavior as well?
Oh, absolutely. Let me tell you, as a someone who loves to research and as a journalist, I actually went to Instagram and TikTok events. I've gone to this influencer house. I brought my dog with me to an influencer house. And these kids and these people are teaching me about creating material. And I'm thinking, okay, my whole thing is I want to create a journalism story into Instagram or to YouTube. How can I get that done? Because I still, there's still kind of it's all up in the air still. Things are evolving and changing, and we're still trying to figure out the right recipe that people will want to watch a news story on Instagram or actually will pay attention versus something that's entertaining, right? And I think people can get their news at so many different areas. I mean, not everyone gets their news on TV anymore. You can get it anywhere. Podcasts, on the internet, on social media. So for me, this was a real experience of not only learning how these content creators create create content for their viewers and for their followers, but also how do you get them to listen? Like, why are they listening to these content creators versus someone else? And how come they're not listening to newscasters as much anymore?
Hmm.
So I think that you have to look at your demographic, like your audience, like, when you're on TikTok or if you're on Instagram, like who are you talking to? Like what are you talking about versus Facebook or Twitter or Threads? So I think that is something that I am just still learning and trying to figure out what is the best way to talk to someone, to meet that audience, to give them the news, to give them the truth so they can make an informed decision.
Absolutely. Previously when you talk about your story, it's about that connection and how do you gain trust. And now as you're saying that, now you're looking at your target audience or these younger generation. Why are they not watching news on TV, but they're actually absorbing information online? And how does that work? So, what is your experience in that then? Why did younger generation actually wanted to trust an influencer more than, let's say, a TV station?
Well, as a matter of fact, because I was asking them, so what do you guys think we should do? They're like, hire an influencer. I'm like, oh, I don't know about because sometimes you might not get it right, correct? Influencers might not understand the ethics and making sure that things are factually correct. It just depends. So I I think the attention span is not people want things they want it now. I'm trying to find a balance of how to connect by making it shorter, making it more it depends. Like I said, I feel like TikTok or Instagram is kind of more in your face, kind of like quick grabs you, right? It's not like you sit down and watch TV for 30 minutes. It's like real quick, and then you're on to the next thing. And they want to know it real quick. And so it's trying to find that balance of just I think finding the right why someone's gonna listen. Why is the younger person gonna listen to a newscaster versus, an influencer? And I think there has to be a middle ground. I think we definitely have to move away from the old traditional news because we have to stay on top and stay up with social media. But there's also got to be a little bit just somewhere in the middle, I think. But I'm just not quite sure. I haven't really seen something where I love yet. I don't know. Have you?
Not quite yet, because I know what you mean, because there's so much of clickbait. You also have strong hook, but the strong hook, it's also clickbait. But how do you go deep
Right.
without going really deep, right? How do
Right.
you make it quick? It's really confusing. So no, I have not. So if maybe our listeners can suggest some option as well, I will love that.
I mean, I will tell you that So I'm talking to these group of influencers and creators in this house, and I've been talking to them, and we want to make some content, and we want to like try some true crime and maybe talk about news stories. And we've been throwing up ideas and talking about podcasts. So we'll see what we come up with. I mean, they're younger, and so I'm hoping that we could find something and maybe come up with something creative.
I would love that. Very excited about that. And I mean, this is kind of unexpected, but since you brought it up, so you're working with a lot of, younger creators. And my experience of working with younger generation, I personally felt like I had to go through some sort of mind shift, simply just admitting that maybe social media, it's not, something that just in my blood. I really definitely have to learn how to do that because I find that a lot of the 20-year-olds, it just in their blood. It's so easy. They take a photo and they get like 500 likes. I'm like, it's a photo. How? Like I don't, it's really interesting. So I felt like I had to go through that, like, okay. Well, fine. Then I have to actually ask the younger generation for advice. Like, okay, can you teach me how to do this? How to find these? I mean, was that an easy process for you? Because I definitely had to like struggle a little bit.
That was a very embarrassing thing for me, actually. I had my first like social media event I went to, and I really am not used to selfies or or
Mm-hmm.
posing. So I had this. So first thing people asked me to take their pictures or something, and I was sure, sure. And they're like, "We'll take pictures of you and your friends." And I said, "Okay." And she's like, "Well, do a pose or do this face or oh, just work it." And I said, "Okay." And it was terrible. Oh god. And then there was another time where someone's like, "I'll just take a video of you walking." And she's like, "That was a bad walk. Do it again." Okay, I'll do it again. Like, well, what do you mean? Just walk. Like, you're not doing it right, or you're taking too long. So I'm like, okay, okay, I'm getting there. But I'm learning. And even one of these creators or influencers said, "Can you be my mom in one of my videos or something?" I said, "Okay, yeah." So looking forward to that. And actually, I'm going to be in a rap song as a newscaster, like the beginning of a song.
Yeah.
And I learned, I met these creators and they're like, "Oh my god, you have the news voice. Can you do this?" And I said, "Yeah." So that's gonna be released I think in February.
Oh my
So,
goodness. I'm so excited.
so this music producer I met through this creator house, right? Isn't it crazy?
Yeah.
It
Well, wait, so how do you define creator house? Now I'm really curious. What does that mean, creator's house?
Okay. So this was actually something very new to me. I met this girl who was a creator influencer. And then she told me she had just moved from San Francisco down to LA. And she lived in a creator house. And I said, "What's a creator house?" And she's like, "Oh, there are other people who are also influencers who also make do podcasts. They work in social media." So there's these two big houses, and there's 4 or 5 people that live in each of them. And there's like 3 floors, and some of them will do music, some of them will
Mm-hmm.
do their podcast, and they do different things, and they also live together like in a community.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gone to dinners over there, and I've even gone they were having, like, a creator party, and I brought my dog. And so Bentley Mr. Bentley is like a little Shih Tzu. I was like, "He can be
Oh,
the Instagram dog."
yeah.
He was fun, and we had a picture together, and it was really sweet, and it it's just a community of creators that are together, and they collaborate. They talk
Mm-hmm.
about things, about trends. They're at San Francisco, for Tech Week, and then this next week is LA Tech Week, and so I'll be seeing them in LA again once they come back, and so it's been fascinating to learn how they're creating music, how they're creating stories, content. They have accountants. They have they're throwing parties and sponsors, and, it is definitely a business that I've never seen. It is like a business on steroids. It is just like it is like the acting business on steroids.
That is so interesting.
It is amazing. I mean
I'm just imagining every single one of them walking around the house with like a phone and just like filming themselves doing like, what's in my day, like what do I eat and open the fridge and everyone just filming themselves. That is so interesting. Yeah, that's gonna be something I'll think about a whole day today. Just like, what is that like?
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, it was like I walk in the house, right? And we're all Asians, so that's really nice.
Okay.
Lots of Asian
Hmm.
community. And our shoes are there, and then I see all these packages, and I'm just curious, like, I wonder what those packages are. I'm like, those are like, I wonder what they got. What companies did they want? And I'm like looking at seeing what kind of labels. So it's always interesting. And I actually tracked into a Tesla, like
Hmm.
my voiceover in a Tesla for that music video. It was really amazing. Like I like the microphone was just plugged. I mean, it was just amazing. And I was like, oh wow, this is like a portable news van, except it's a Tesla. I was learning a lot. And I think they probably think it's funny teaching an old woman like me, you know?
No, I'm no. First of all, you're definitely not old at all. You look beautiful. But I think I understand from your perspective. It just, yeah, I'm the same. It just like every time I used to have to ask, my junior team, she's in her, early 20s. I'm like, how do you do this? Like, it's so easy for her. Just like, oh, just do this and click that. I'm like, oh, okay.
Say, can you show me that one more time? Like, okay, so you can hold it this way. And they're like, did you break it? I said, maybe. You know what I mean? You're right. They're innate. They have it. They just have that. All the young people have like the it factor that they can just do selfies and just be on Instagram like immediately, be a star is what I seem, it's fun to learn, but I feel like you're
Mhm.
right that in a way social media is kind of like you have to know and do it.
Yeah,
Eh,
yeah. It seems
uh,
like it's part of the process now. It's part of the skill set, right? It's part of the skill that you should have, or at least gotta start learning and let your ego just step aside and just learn the new
for sure.
skills.
Yes, I mean, talk about our egos, right? That goes out
Exactly.
because we just have to laugh at ourselves.
Yeah, I know. I think that's part of the fun process, but I feel like you had such a positive energy about it. Just like, yeah, just, if it doesn't go well, laugh at ourselves and then just try it again or ask for help. I know asking for help, it's really not that difficult, but I think just putting our ego kind of just aside, that has been a lesson for me.
Yeah, and you know what? I actually think that I was really surprised at how nice people were, how nice young people were to older people, because they're 20, they took out their time to show somebody how to work a tripod or whatever, or you gotta clean that lens, Mary. You know, you got makeup on it, you gotta clean it. So I said, oh, yeah, that's right. And it's just stuff we don't think about, right?
Hmm.
And they just are
Yeah.
so exciting, and so I'm having fun, and
Hmm.
with it's been challenging, and it's also been kinda scary, but it's been rewarding at all at the same time too. Like, I'm sure, when you are able to figure something out or able to do a story, you're, like, proud of yourself.
Yeah, of course. And aside from having a lot of fun and going to Creator's House, what is the project and the exciting project that you're working on right now?
Well, actually, been working on a couple different things. We've been working on LA wildfires. There was just an arrest, an arsonist was just arrested a couple days ago. So that was some pretty big news, and that for the Pacific Palisades in the wildfires. And then, we've been really looking towards doing, at least as an independent journalist and other news outlets in LA too. We're talking about what's coming up with the Super Bowl, the Olympics, the World Cup. We're talking about immigration, the ICE raids. Like, how is that going to affect everyone? how are other people coming to the United States? How is that gonna affect them? Are people scared? Are people going to be able to get around? And LA has to rebuild. So that has been a lot of talking about rebuilding, about the sports, about being safe, about having the United States, host all these events and international, and everybody's coming in for sports. So it's kind of going on to that next level of how are we going to rebuild? What kind of stories are there to do? How is sports? How are people going to come to the United States for these sporting events?
Yeah, it is very exciting. It's an exciting time, but it's also a lot has changed, right? People wanted to feel safe in order to enjoy those activities, obviously. Yeah, so I think it would be an amazing, so for what you're doing, that's just absolutely amazing for anyone, including travelers or foreigners who want to visit the States and experience all of that. I mean, yeah, it's so incredibly fun. Like, I know I love US, just the pure energy of it, the different kind of people that you get to meet. I really miss it. And yeah, I'm very, very excited about your big projects coming up.
Yeah, I'll be, and I'm really excited too that I'm going to probably do some stuff with the younger creators too. Just they want to kind of get involved too. But not only that though, I was able to do projects with my parents on them traveling, like ARP, citizens traveling and having special needs. And so I hope a lot of us, all age groups, learn from this experience and on traveling and things going on in the world.
Yeah. And I just kind of wanted to end our episode on this question that I ask every single guest is that when you hear the term soft power, how do you define that and how do you apply that in your life?
Well, when I hear the term soft power, I think of soft power is really being able to pivot. It's being able to take that next step. And if you have to turn and change, you're going to do it. It's okay if you take a couple steps and stumble, just get right back up and do it again. So I think that's my definition.
I love that because, like you said, right, you're pivoting. We're all pivoting. We're learning new skills. We're putting our egos aside. And it's okay that our tripods fall and we had to learn how to walk in front of camera or how to take a
Right.
selfie.
Right. And just it's okay to ask for someone, that's much younger and everyone's so nice, I think. And it's okay to not always do it right the first couple times because you can always do it again or do it better.
Yeah, no, I think that's a beautiful message. It is about, yeah, asking for help and it's okay to fail, then do it again and learn from that. We don't have to be perfect. I think it's the kind of that need to be perfect every time that's tying us down. And especially in this day and age where we need to have multiple skills, of course we're going to learn, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that is so important that it's hard to be good at everything, right? So you just got to do one thing at a time, take one step at a time. And each step, you might have to pivot a little. So I think that's why it's important. And that's what makes it powerful and how it gives me inner strength to move forward and keep on changing and pivoting as the world changes.
Mm. And I just wanted to say thank you so, so much for today's conversation. And I know that you are very passionate and very involved in the Asian American community in the US. And is there any messages that you like to share with them?
Well, I just hope that in this time with politics and whatever, I just hope that everybody just comes together for the good of humanity, like to travel, to be with other people. Let's kind of just put the politics aside and just let's be people. Let's be humans and
Yeah.
interact. We're done with COVID. Let's get back to living again experiencing movies, watching TV, being in the moment, being real, authentic. And you need to do that around other people and other people from other countries. And that's so important.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Mary, and I really appreciate your time.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure, Sherry.